Well, all I can say to everybody out there is, Laurie and
I know that feeling.
Laurie and I having a competition as to who feels more tired. We said last year during COVID, the first sort of reign of COVID, that it's never been so busy. And this year, seriously, has been twice as busy, if not more, than last year. You'll hear more about that later on during the evening, but it's just insane. I cannot tell you how insane it is.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, we ran the figures earlier today. Actually, Douglas ran the figures. We are 60% busier this year than we've ever been before.
I'm 60%. Too old for this, Laurie. I'm too old. And look, somebody's just donated €100. I wonder
who that is.
I know, and just 100. I mean, one day he's going to slip up and put €1,000, and I'm going to have a heart attack on the spot. So
that would be interesting. We'd have to get the defib out.
Yeah, and we'd have to film it because Jim always said when we were doing Wildlife SOS, he said if Simon actually died on one of the episodes, ideally the last episode of the series, it would make such great television. Very uncut. That's why we had to get rid of Jim. He had to go. He was, too far gone.
God.
So look, I just want to say to everyone.
Point, thank you very much, Sven. That's very kind as always.
Oh yes, Sven. Seriously, thank you. We're just having a bit of because I went rushed up this afternoon at 4 o'clock and shaved because a certain person who watches us will always moan if I don't shave. And Laurie is sitting there. He looks as if he's got about 6 months of stubble on his chin.
6 months.
6 months of stubble.
It's his hair.
Your hair is growing down over your nose.
He's a real boy.
Ooh, and Abby chirping up. Audio only from Abby, as always. What? She's talking.
She said, as always.
As always, yeah. Well, there you are. She might have to be on screen at some point tonight, otherwise there's going to be trouble. So we've got truly international tonight, haven't we? With Colombia,
yes.
America, South Africa, Scotland.
Yeah, please let us know where you're from in the comments, either on Facebook or on YouTube. We are monitoring both on there.
And tell us why you want to watch a very old senile man and a very unshaven young man talking to you.
Probably still senile, let's be honest.
Talking to you on YouTube for an hour. I marvel.
This isn't beer.
I marvel that it's so extraordinarily international. Money flowing in from all sorts of people. So. Jeffrey, thank you. Anthony, thank you. Everybody. Sweden's now with us.
Sweden, Canada, Madrid, Norfolk and Kent. Oh, Wales, America, Finland.
It's all there. Look at it.
Leicestershire.
You're all so kind. Honestly, I laugh I joke about it, but I can't believe that you want to follow us. It's great that you do. We do love doing it. That's if Laurie doesn't fall asleep, which is quite likely to fall asleep on his desk any minute now. But thank you, it's great. And as we always say, we never get much feedback from this, but if you want us to discuss anything particular, or you want to ask a particular question, or you want us to change the format of what we do, we are more than willing to do anything you like, providing it makes us money. Because as my brain is always focused on the pound signs, because I'm trying to build 20 acres, and it's scaring me to death. 20 acres is so close to being started. The guy who's supposed to be doing it is supposed to be starting at the very end of May, and hopefully the wetlands will be finished 12 weeks later. I can't tell you how excited I am about it, so we'll actually see some development. We've got power down there, which is brilliant, and we've got the road in, so we're getting there slowly, and we've covered over the culvert. That's going to be Laurie's tombstone, the culvert. I've made a little hole in the middle. So
I'm not sure what's going on here, I'll be honest. I'm letting you waffle.
I know, well I do waffle, you know that. I'm full of waffle. So let's get into a little bit of going. So we've done the introduction. We've had, patient-wise, it's just been crazy. We're getting 30, 40, 50 calls a day. We're getting rescues far more and far earlier and far more frequently than ever before. I suppose one of the biggest things is, we've got to say the word, haven't we? Fox cubs, which I'm very good in the voiceover suite of getting wrong. Fox cubs.
I'll do a montage at one point of the amount of times he's messed up saying fox cubs.
I can say it
every day. And the amount of times that when you hear it, what you've actually heard is him going, fox cubs. And then we remove the pause in post because he can't say it.
So anyway, I can't say it when it's joined up tight like that. So how many have we had in, Laurie? Come on, scare me now. Because I can see it on the paper. Tell them how many we've seen.
Before we do this, people in the comments, post a quick guess. How many fox cubs you think we have got at the moment. Bear in mind that this is usually towards the start of the season, how it would normally be. Things would pick up a lot from here.
We might have, what, 4 or 5 in by now usually, probably?
No, we'd have a lot more than that at this point, but we're about a month ahead of where we are at the moment, or where we're meant to be at the moment.
Says 150
Sharon has guessed 150. Sunny Day Girls guessed 6. Izzy 55. Preston 68.
Helen 12.
112, 12, 86, 50, 90.
40,
if anybody,
75.
Laurie, if anybody gets...
Nancy!
Oh,
Nancy!
yeah,
Nancy's just guessed 75. The correct answer...
No, shut up! Laurie! Why did you say that? I was going to give a prize away. You've blown that right out of the water, Laurie. So that's the prize gone. I was going to say, if anybody gets exactly the right number, we would send out a copy of Al's Dream to that person.
Richie's very close. Ansie's very close, actually.
Laurie ruined it. So Laurie...
I ruin everything.
You do. He ruins everything. All the time. He's been climbing trees all week, really. He's been up so many trees recently. He had his drone up trees. Nearly crashed his drone twice because he flew into branches.
That's not true. In the slightest.
And he says, I'm just trying to clear the
smoke. You're making things up.
You kept hitting branches, and you said to me the next day, I was just trimming off the small branches with the blades of the propellers.
No, I needed a nice gap, because when we take the drone up, we have to get quite close to the tree. And you want to make sure that you don't get any sort of vortices that muck up where you are with your drone. And the best way of doing that is making sure that you've got a nice clear gap so that you can then concentrate on the picture and looking for a nest. And one of the ways that we do that, especially with small branches, is if you take the drone just up into it, you can clip off just the very, very tips of the smallest branches, just to give yourself a bit of leeway, just in case you get drifting with the wind. So that's one thing we do with that. But we do use the drone quite a lot. It is one of the main tools that we use for this type of rescue, for tawny owls and anything like that. It's really, really useful. If we can spot something that looks like a nest but we're not quite sure, we can send the drone up, get nice and close to it. We can even see if there are youngsters in the nest. A couple of years ago, we put a buzzard back in the nest, and from the footage you could actually see the youngsters in the nest before we even ascended. So it's a very, very useful tool. And it is all licensed, all under the regulations. We've done all the courses. It's fully governed by all the current CAA registrations.
Thank you for that information, which nobody really cared about, Laurie.
We've got to say it.
It's just, Laurie's just there. Laurie is the font of all knowledge, of which we don't actually want to know the answers at all. But there we are. So what else is going on? What else have we been doing? So you've been up a lot of trees and with your drone, and we've been... So how many baby owls have we got in? How many baby tawny owls have we got in at the moment?
Well, baby tawny owls, so currently we have 12. But that's what's in at the centre at the moment. There are a lot more of those that we've actually managed to get back. So if you've been watching the channel recently, you've seen a couple of different attempts where we try and put these owls back in the nest. So with... in the UK at the moment, it's been really, really windy over the past couple of days, and that isn't just because of Simon. So
I was going to say that about you early on, because you said drifting in the wind. You said drifting in the wind, and I was going to pick up, if you ever stop, when you start talking, trying to stop him talking is impossible. I was going to say, Laurie, you're normally drifting in the wind, but I didn't get a chance to get a word in edgeways. So there you are.
I'm taking over. You're out.
It's no good shaking that unshaven head at me.
Well, you know the head's definitely not unshaven.
No, but the whole of the facial area is...
We're getting very off topic. Can we move back on topic?
So baby tawny owls. Okay, so baby tawny owls. One thing we must say at this stage, and I'm sure it's going to come later on as well, but when we get windy nights like we had one the other night where the winds were up to 60 miles an hour. I mean, young birds of all sorts, not only owls, are going to come out of trees. The nests are going to collapse, or something's going to happen. So if you're out walking the next day, please keep a really close eye on, because... You know, say all these tawny owls falling out of nest. Tawny owls aren't the best at building nests. They build a very meagre platform, which is often just absolutely flat, with nothing on the sides of it. So when we go up, Laurie goes up the trees, he always takes a load of twigs with him that he can actually build up the lip of the nest, so they're a bit safer. There's a little owl which we just put back in a tree the other day. That actually has got a bit of a lip, Laurie, hadn't it? That was a bit of a lip on that one. Some of them have nothing. Some of them are just absolutely flat, and of course the owls topple off the edge, especially when they're just thinking about starting to branch, which some of them are just about now. It's a bit early, but some are. They obviously are very liable to fall out of trees. So do keep an eye open for them. And any nest, if you see them fall out of trees, if you can get the nest back in the tree or get the bird back in the tree, fine. Do call us for advice first. As with all babies this time of year, always ring us for advice, because there are so many occasions when we can get these creatures back to where they should be with their mum and dad, and we'd much rather that, not only for our own sakes, and it would save us a bit of time and effort, but for the bird's sake, I'd much rather it be with its parents than having to stare at us all day. So there we are, guys.
There's a few questions that have been raised about some of the owl sort of content that we've put out over the past couple of days. Several people are wondering how often or how long we get to actually return an owl before the risk of rejection is too great, and once an owl is back in the nest, if we're able to do that, how we can make sure that that owl is okay, that the parent is coming back, and that there's not a problem that we're effectively just putting this owl back into. So do you want to go through that one?
I can do. I'm just looking at somebody to say the video is lagging. It's a bit choppy, so I'm just worried about that. And
it's streaming fine. So if the video is a bit choppy, I would just suggest just refreshing the stream just to see if it catches up. Looking at everything that I've got this end, it should be streaming fine from our end.
And Ali TK has just given us £30, so I try not to miss that. The screen moves so quickly, these comments come up so fast that if you see me looking away from your screen, it's because I'm looking down at my screen just to the side of me, and money's always flowing in, so thank you so much for that. It's really great. So what are we talking about? Tawny owls. Tawny owls.
You've completely forgotten.
I've lost the thread now, Laurie. The thread is gone.
So, tawny owls usually get between 24 and 48 hours, yeah. Potentially up to 72, depending on the whether there's another youngster in the nest, to return a young owl back to the nest. That varies between species and between sort of age of the animal. But if you're able to get the youngster back into the nest within that time, usually you are okay. Usually the parent will still be coming back, and if there's another youngster in the nest, obviously they'll still be coming back to feed that one. So you've got a little more leniency on that side. But what we tend to do once an animal is returned to the nest, whether it's an owl or a foxcove back to the earth or anything like that, we'll either leave a trail camera out just to make sure that everything's okay. It's a little remote infrared night vision camera, and that will just record everything that happens in front of it. It's all motion activated, all completely remote, and we can check that footage afterwards and just make sure that there is adult activity there. But mostly in the case of the owls, we ask the caller to keep a close eye out. One, to check that the owl doesn't fall down again and they don't find it in the same spot. But two, just to check at night to hear any adult activity. Watch the nest just to see if that is the case. And we've actually had several over the past couple of days where the caller has actually come back and said that a parent is coming in and everything is all back to normal. So we do make sure that we're not just chucking them back into a bad situation after that.
I love King Kong. I just like to tell you, Laurie, that I love King Kong.
Simon
is looking young and fresh today. Are you sure you're not looking at Laurie and not at Simon? I think they were looking at the wrong one. I think we should merge into one. So if you go one way and I go the other way, look, you could see us merging into one. Laurie's not doing it. I'm merging into him.
I'm not giving in to this childishness.
Gone now. Look. So my body has Laurie's head on it at the moment. Look, there you are. Yeah, no, manic, absolutely manic we are at the moment, and it's likely to stay like that this year. I think we've already had a call. We need more incubator cages, which we'll probably put a fundraiser out in due course. People keep forgetting them. Shall we be polite? Keep forgetting them and leaving them at home and not playing them back.
Yeah.
So we will unmisplace those if we can, but we do need some more because obviously these things have kicked off much earlier. I mean, really, we started a good month, 6 weeks before we normally start getting so busy. We have never in the 40 years that we've been running Wildlife Aid actually been so full up we couldn't take any more fox cubs, which we got to at one point last week. Never happened. Normally you get 3 or 4 in, they go through the various stages where they're under a lot of heat and less heat, and they go through the centre, so by the time the next fox cubs come in, there's space for them at the start. So they all just slowly go through the centre bit by bit. This year they just went everything arrived at once, so we were having to be really
something
careful.
I wanted to see.
It was really horrible. It was just so busy, but we will get it under control. We will come over this. It's only for a short period of time. Look, all this money coming. Sarah Walker, thank you very much for £10. So it's really exciting. I'm looking at my screen as well. What else do you want to talk about, Laurie? Let's talk about lots of things.
There's a few questions that have come in over the past couple of minutes on the subject of owls. So Minmaj35 has asked, has Laurie taken any specialist tree climbing training? If not, will he? So not particularly. I have done basic arborist training with someone who's very experienced doing a lot of tree climbing stuff, which is why I can use all the arborist gear. But in terms of the climb, like the one that we just posted and a couple of that, I learned to climb at a very young age. My dad was a climber and did a lot of that. I learned to abseil when I can't remember how old. I did a lot of climbing at university, trained as an instructor, did a whole lot of bits that side. So that's that side. I have looked into doing proper arborist training, but it's very, very expensive, about £1,000 to get the
You're not doing that. You just climb up the trees. Laurie, if something happened and you fell out of the tree, we'll just find another Laurie. It's not the end of the world, is it? You know, we can get Laurie back into the nest as well if we have to. We can do anything. We can do anything here. Blimey, another £30 from Emily Watley. Thank you, Emily, for that. It's pouring in today. I think they're all feeling sorry for you. They're trying to save up for your razor blades, Laurie, aren't they? That's what they're doing.
There were a few comments saying, don't worry, Laurie, Simon's just jealous that you have hair.
Oh my god.
You know what's going to happen now, Laurie?
Well. So thank you very much for everyone who has sent in donations, comments, questions, everything over the 17 minutes that we've now been on air. That's very kind. We will try and get through as many questions as we can. Abby is monitoring both streams, both on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you do have a question, please leave it in the comments and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. Just one that I've seen from Lindsay. Why do we have so many fox cubs and what's happened to their parents?
Well, we are trying to work out why that's happening. Some of it probably is climate change, because we didn't really have what I would call a hard winter. I mean, when I was young, you used to get winters when you couldn't go out for 4 or 5 days because the snow was so deep and it was so cold and everything going on. So obviously things started to breed a bit later on because it was still very cold. They hadn't their clocks hadn't ticked into springtime. So that's hospital now. I'm going to decline that, but they'll probably send me a text in a minute. So calls are coming in very regularly. But I think the bigger thing probably, both last year and this year, is that because of lockdown, more people have been working at home, more people have been going out for walks, more people are seeing things in their gardens. So I think it's probably, every year we probably get all these things going on, but people don't see it. So in a way it's good for the wildlife because they get a second chance when they get picked up and come in. And in a way it's going to put the strain on wildlife hospitals such as ours. I mean, there's lots of wildlife hospitals throughout the UK and throughout the world, but I mean, it's going to put the strain on these hospitals to try to keep up with the sort of intake that we're getting. I mean, England's one of a hugely nature depleted country, and obviously the more we can save the better, but it's just a shame that we've got this state where we need to do that. So yeah, I've just had a text come in now. There we are.
Your phone is so loud.
I know. So you talk for a minute while I look at my text, Laurie.
So in terms of why they come in and what's happened to the parents, the cubs that we've got in have a whole host of different reasons why they're here. If you follow us on social media, you'll see a lot of the time that they come in as they've been abandoned, and that can be for a number of reasons. Either the parents could have sadly been killed, whether it be on the roads, dog attacks, anything like that. There's a whole host of things. They can get stuck in things. There's a couple of recent cases of trappings over at another wildlife centre, so a whole host of things can happen to the parents. The other thing that is quite prevalent at the moment is, especially with the young cubs, when a vixen is moving her cubs, if she's spooked, which happens a lot more at the moment because people are out in their gardens a lot more, especially with the lockdowns and everything that's been going on, if she's spooked, she'll drop that cub and she'll flee, and very often she won't come back for it. And sadly that has been the case for several of the cubs that we have had to take into care over the past couple of weeks and months. But in terms of main reasons, I don't think we will ever know why. We know that there isn't any parental activity, so we do make sure that we check. You've seen a couple of the videos of the ones that we've actually managed to get back with the parents. We do try and check as much as possible, but a lot of the patients we get in, we'll never really know what happened, and it would be really interesting to know, because it would certainly help in working out what's wrong. I'm sure you'd agree on that one.
Well, this is why really I think, vets, when animals go into vets, I mean, they've got an unfair advantage when it's a domestic pet, because you can give them the history of why that animal's come in, what's been wrong with it, if it's been off its food for a few weeks, whatever. When we get wildlife in here, all we can do is guess. We have no means of knowing what happened to that animal, why it is, how it is, where it is, why it is. So, our vets have an awful job in trying to sort of not only trying to get it better, but trying to work out what the heck happened to it in the first place. So that's why wildlife veterinary medicine is in some respects more complicated than domestic animal medicine, because you get no clue as to history. So, it's all very important for us. And sadly, after 4 or 5 years, Mary's been with us. She's leaving us very, very soon. In fact, tomorrow's her last day.
Yeah.
I've never seen her be so happy. It really worries me that she's so happy, because it's her last day tomorrow. And now, on top of all of that, Naomi's going to leave us too. So our vet team is going to be have to go through a metamorphosis, really. And we've got Sally coming in to head up the vet team, and we've got Alana who's going to take over Naomi's job. So hopefully it'll all keep going fine, and we'll get us through orphan season, which is going to be, as always, a very, very, very manic time for us. Naomi, I mean, it's lovely with Naomi, because you never know what colour her hair's going to be tomorrow. She comes in with so many different coloured hairs. I wanted to do it with mine, but I didn't have enough to do it with. That's quite sad, really.
We actually have a meet the team sheet up at the top of the centre, just so any new volunteers can sort of know who's a member of staff and who's on the vet team, who they can approach and everything like that. That is Abby's desk, and that's very squeaky. And originally, I believe when we first did Naomi's picture, she had black hair. And then, as and when it was changed, Alice would come along and colour in the resulting change with a Sharpie over the top. So it just built up this layer of all of the many different changes. But yes, as Simon said, sadly, we are losing 2 members of the team that have been around for a long time. Nay actually started before I joined. And Maru was a volunteer vet here before that. So both of them have been with us for a long, long time. For those of you who don't know, Naomi's our hospital coordinator, so she runs the sort of the rehab side of the centre, where patients go when they're being released, organising drugs and things like that. Both are hugely valued members of staff. They've done incredible work over the past 5-6 years that they've been here, and will be very, very sorely missed. So I'm sure you'll see a lot more about those guys over in the next couple of days, especially on our main social media platforms. But I for one would like to say thank you to them both, because they've done a sterling job, and we will miss them greatly.
I have indeed, and because I get very upset because we have to buy them a leaving present, and that costs me even more money, Laurie. You know what it's like. It's a nightmare. Some lovely comments coming in about Maru and about Naomi, so we will pass those on to them. Naomi hopefully will be with us at least for another month. She wants to go as soon as she can, because she wants to obviously get another job. She wants to go back into conservation, which is where her degree was.
Yeah, she's an ecologist.
There's
a lot of reptile surveys.
That's a very big word for Laurie after a very, very, very large malt whiskey which she's had this evening.
That's not true. Actually, and there's a few people saying, so I should stop playing with this. This is an earpiece to speak to Simon, because we're in completely separate offices, and unfortunately it keeps falling out my ear, so I'm sorry for that. Before this stream started, I was poured this, which I still haven't had any of. So we'll see. If I manage to get through that over the course of this live stream, it may take a slightly different turn.
Braley, are you man or mouse, Braley? That's what I question regularly.
Last time you said that, it didn't end well.
No, we won't. So, I wouldn't even go there with you. That would be too embarrassing for you. Laurie is not a great. No, you just be quiet for a minute. Laurie does struggle with an overindulgence of alcohol, which he very occasionally
That is not true. Basically, we had a drinks evening for Christmas where he basically made me down an entire glass of gin, and it didn't agree with me. That is what he's getting to. I'll just go out there and say it.
Laurie,
questions,
you are an adult, Laurie. You do not have to drink it. I did not put the glass to your lips. You're a man, I think.
Right.
So you control what you drink, as with anybody else. But never
mind. Let me just mute you so that we can actually get on and have something. You're not muted yet, but I'm looking for your audio so that we can actually have something productive in this live stream that people are tuning into. So Deb Jane, who I believe is from Quan Wildlife Rescue, has asked, have you noticed an early increase of duckling admittances this year? We currently have 121. Ouch. Yes. We have had loads of ducklings.
We've got 375. You know me, Laurie. I always want to beat everybody. We've actually got 75, which we thought was excessive. 121 is a bit over excessive. So I feel quite honoured that we haven't got that many, because it would be a nightmare. We'd run out of space.
I really hope you're doing well with that, because we have a whole unit that's full of ducklings at the moment. And what if you don't sort of work in wildlife rehab or anything like that, you won't realise just how messy ducklings are.
I'm trying, Laurie, as I'm talking to.
So you might think that the fox cubs and the badger cubs and things like that are messy and smelly, and yes, when they're youngsters, they will absolutely tear a pen up really quickly. A duckling, you can clean the duckling's pen, make it back up, blink, and it will be worse than before you started cleaning. They are incredibly messy creatures. And I, for one, am very much looking forward to the time they go out onto the pond so that they can actually keep themselves clean.
So see, I'm looking for my duckling cam, Laurie, now, and look, if you go onto the screens where I'm trying to look for things, all I can see is hundreds and hundreds of badgers running around all over the place. Oh, that one's got a chick, he's having his dinner. So we've just moved, our badgers actually, we've got 11 badgers now, which again is probably 3 times more than we'd normally have this time of year. We've just moved the bigger ones up, which gave us space to take in some more little ones. These that you're looking at now are up in our top flight. They're right next to where they'll end up, so they're in top flight, but they're shut in an inside part of top flight where they've got heat and everything, just to give them a bit of a boost. They only go up there when they're 3 kilos, so all the ones that are 3 kilos or more have gone up there. So they went up there today, which allowed us to take some more babies in, and the baby ones, he's looking quickly, probably, they're all asleep. So believe it or not, that pen was cleaned out just before lunch, and it now looks like World War III.
It's actually cleaned out a lot more regularly than that. If one of our team goes in and they notice it's messy, it will be completely reset. Some of those pens can be reset 4, 5, 6 times a day, and literally you will blink and it will look worse than before you started. And they do smell. Anyone who has worked in wildlife rehab will know what I'm talking about with ducklings.
Absolutely. Yeah, so they were ducklings you saw for a second there. I mean, all the screens are up now. We've got so much, and we've even got exciting little things like this, which you can probably see on the screen now if Laurie clicks back to it. The mum's on the nest now, but how many eggs has she got? We've got 3 nests.
We counted 10, actually. So you counted 11, but I've no idea where you got that from.
I think I'd had a drink. So yeah, they're all on their nest. So we've got 3 nest boxes all with eggs. There's a nest box with eggs in. Mum's not there at the moment. I think that's a sparrow, isn't it, Laurie, that one?
Most of them are blue ticks now.
Yeah.
We did have a sparrow that made a nest and then didn't use it in the end.
Okay,
Blue
so
tick took over.
Lots going on. I mean, it's manic everywhere. There's ducklings running everywhere. Yeah, it's just yes. You look at the screens. I can get swallowed up by the screens all day just looking at what's going on everywhere, and there's so much activity, so many animals. The volunteers are working beyond hours, really. I think we're now up to 400 volunteers, which is pretty amazing. So
on the way to 450, actually.
Now COVID is over, we're able
it's not,
to reopen.
But restrictions are lifting slightly.
Restrictions are lifting, so we can get more people in. So yeah, we're training up people like crazy. It's now raining like mad outside, Laurie. Looking very unpleasant out there tonight. And yeah, I've just had one badger jumped over another one then. Honestly, there's just always things to watch here.
If you want to keep an eye on some of our patients outside of the live stream, if you head over to our website, so wildlifeaid.org.uk, click on the videos and webcams tab, and on there are 4, soon to be 8 webcams on there that are streaming live, so you can watch them whenever you want. If you want to watch
Laurie,
them at 4 o'clock in the morning,
onto the screen now.
Welcome.
Laurie, click onto the screen, because one badger just jumped over another one then. I don't know what they're doing. They're having a bit of a game. They're getting a bit bouncy. It's coming to night time. They're all running around like crazy.
Right, as we watch the badgers, a couple of questions have come in. So Preston S has asked, do you get people mistaking young dogs for fox kits and bringing them in? It's more likely the other way around, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, we get so many people. I found a kitten, I found a puppy, I found all sorts of things. Not surefire, but the pretty best way to tell is if it's got a tiny little white speck or flash on the end of its tail, it's going to be a fox cub, and not a puppy, and not a kitten.
Yeah, I think our first fox cub of the year, certainly for all of the years that I've been here, have come from a vet that's been brought in as an abandoned dog. I think every single year without fail, that's what's going on there. So I think that's the same with a lot of other rescue centres as well. If any of the guys from Quan or anything like that, or I know there's a few from Brent Lodge and stuff that regularly watch this. If you guys want to leave in the comments as well to see if you get a lot of the same. Certainly our first probably 5 or 6 are from vets that are just that people think are abandoned puppies.
Laurie, now I feel really guilty. I feel really bad now, because if you look at your YouTube screen now, you'll see a little red line across the middle of it, and I think somebody has just done something more than he usually does. Can you not see it?
The problem is with a lot of this is Simon will be poking around on those screens, and then he'll make a change that he has no idea how to correct.
I haven't made any changes. I've done nothing. Oh my God, it's all gone berserk. Now that wasn't me. I did touch nothing, and that's all. So he's Adam Warner. I noticed there. Now it's going. My screen's going backwards now, Laurie. What are you doing to me?
I'm not doing anything.
Why is my screen going backwards? Literally.
Probably because you're scrolling.
I'm not touching anything.
You see, Simon is very good at wildlife rescue, but is very bad at IT. I think we can be. Look, Abby has appeared.
Look, see, I've caught her on camera.
That was a trick. There's nothing wrong with your screen.
No, it wasn't. It started scrolling madly.
It's fine.
Look, for all of you who never see Abby because she's always in the dark.
Yeah, I'm in light.
She came in and she's in the light. She's coming to mend my screen.
She's not collecting fox cubs this time.
She's off now, look. She's going. Here she goes, look. Back over the wires. Back into her little office.
Deb from Quan, yes, we had a fox cub from a cat rescue centre. The person who took it in thought it was a kitten. Yeah, so it does seem to be the same with a lot of rescue centres. That is probably 30% of our intake is from that, and then as we get later in the season they become more recognisable. That tends to be abandonment or entanglement or anything of that sort of nature.
And the next thing it starts, actually, it's a good point, Laurie, just at that point, because they are just beginning to get a little more explorative now. That's entirely the wrong word, but I use it anyway. So if you've got football nets in your garden, or trampoline nets, or cricket nets, or any sort of tennis nets, please keep an eye open this time of year, because they run into them, they get all stuck up, and instead of just backing out quietly, they twist and turn around until the net goes very tight around the neck, and they get into big trouble. We go out to literally hundreds, I think, of foxes and hedgehogs and even deer stuck in football nets and other types of nets in the garden. And the other thing for hedgehogs, so it's a bit early for hedgehogs. Luckily we haven't had a baby hedgehog in yet, otherwise we'd all be in a terrible state. But they get stuck in chain link fencing, because they get their head through it, they can't pull back out because obviously the spines go backwards. So if you've got a garden with chain link fence, all you've got to do is walk around that garden once a day, that's all. Once a day, have a look, make sure there's nothing on the bottom sort of 2 feet of it, or foot of it really. Make sure there's nothing there that's stuck in this fencing, because it does happen a lot and a lot of animals die that way. So yeah, things to look out for. There's always an orphan season. Just keep your eyes open, guys, because there's so much to see and there's so much you could do to help if necessary. So you could make it your IDOT of the day, Laurie. They could make it their IDOT. So we've got Douglas, who came on the show I think last time or the time before. He's really running with IDOT now. If you've got any questions about IDOT, if you'd like to get involved in IDOT, then please just send us an email, because Douglas will respond to you. We've got several schools come on board in the last couple of weeks. We've got scout troops, we've got brownie troops, all beginning to do their IDOTs. And in fact, one brownie troop up north have actually got their own IDOT badge now. I was so chuffed that they've got an IDOT badge. So please think about IDOT, because if we all did just one thing a day, I know you get bored with this, guys, I'm sorry, but if in the UK alone, if we all did one thing a day, that would be 24 billion actions a year. And if we could take this international, obviously in all the other countries, we could make so much difference. Governments and corporates are very slow on doing what they need to do to protect this planet. So as always, it comes down to the general public, and general public, we can do it, we have the ability, and collectively we can make the most enormous difference. So want any question about IDOT, send us an email, put something on the chat tonight, and with your email address, and Douglas will get back to you. He's really working very hard trying to make it work.
So if you are interested in IDOT, or you want to bring it into your school or your scout troop or guide troop or whatever, so just for clarity, IDOT is I do one thing. There are a few people that don't get that one. If you can email us at IDOT, so IDOT, at wildlifeaid.org.uk, then Douglas can get back to you with a little more information.
And Douglas, to be honest, I do a bit of an apology here, because Douglas is our front man, because Abby doesn't like being in camera light. Abby has spent probably over a year now, probably more than that, working on IDOT. Look, she's in the dark now, so you can't see her, but she has spent hours and hours and hours and days working on IDOT to get it where it is today. So, you know, all credit to her. She just lets Douglas front it up, basically. So we're still trying to find funding for that. So Douglas is on board for a while we got some funding for him. I don't want to let IDOT die, because I think it could be amazing. So if you know of any corporates, anybody who might want to help fund our IDOT program over the next year, please again drop us a line on the live chat, drop us an email, because it would really help us. It's not part of our mainstream work, IDOT. It's our philanthropic part of what we do here, but I think it's so important. I mean, if everything we do, yes, getting the animals is better and getting them out back to the wild's good, but if we could stop them from having to come in the first place, Laurie and I could actually have a sleep. That'd be quite cool.
So going to a couple of questions that have come in while she was speaking. Sunny Day Girl.
You were going to say waffling on then, weren't you? You were going to say waffling on.
I wasn't going to say it, but I was going to
thinking it.
Sunny Day Girl has asked, is it true that birds and other small animals can abandon their young if they smell human scent on them?
With animals, yes, if the animal's very young and they get human scent on them, if it's a deer or fox cub, it is possible. There's been very little research on this, but we believe it's the case, which is why whenever we try to get a fox cub back or a fawn back, we always rub it, put gloves on, we rub it on soil from near where it came from, so all the human scent's rubbed off, and then we put it back, and we know for a fact, because we put trail cameras out, that it works. Birds aren't the case. If you pick up a baby bird and put it back in the nest, it's not going to deter mum at all, and they'll be absolutely fine with that. So it's only the mammals really that go much more on smell. That's how I detect where Laurie is in the office most days.
That was guaranteed to come.
Yeah, it was gonna happen, Laurie. Do you want to say something now, Laurie, apart from that inane grin that you're waffling on, or have you just fallen asleep?
Adam Buckton has asked, am I doing the right thing by feeding cat food to the hedgehogs that live behind our garden shed?
This is always a nightmare. We always advocate not to feed any wildlife unless it's in dire trouble, unless it's very sick and needs a bit of support short term. But long-term feeding actually makes them lazy, because they come in, they know where their food's going to be, they go and eat it, then you move or something happens and something changes, and then suddenly their food source after months and months and months has vanished. So they can get a bit lazy while that happens. So we try not to advocate. Short-term or occasional feeding, great to bring them into the garden to have a look, is fine. But you know, what you do get often, and we've had it so many times in the years, is that somebody feeds foxes every day. They then either move house or go away, somebody else moves in who hate foxes, and you're going to get a disaster. I won't go what the disasters are, but let's just say they're fatal. So please, you know, it's better to let animals, better view them from a distance and really enjoy them and love them, rather than bringing them in too close where they get too used to humans. So cat food, if you're going to feed food, yeah, cat food's fine. Don't make it a fish variety, because you know they wouldn't get that in the wild. But yes, occasional feeding, fine, but don't do it too often. Don't get them reliant on it.
Mary's asked, do you feed your hedgehogs dried mealworms? I have them in my garden, and I feed hedgehog food and a small portion of mealworms.
I get lots of fields of thoughts on this. Some people say mealworms are very bad for hedgehogs, either dried ones or even live ones. To me, if you don't overdo anything, which we've just said don't overdo, to feed them a few every now and then, there's no problem at all. But don't give them a whole diet of it. It's not going to do them any good at all.
The dangers with mealworms are if a diet is very heavy in mealworms or exclusively on mealworms, and that can cause sort of major issues with nutrition, and then with metabolic bone disease, and it doesn't do a lot for the teeth. And there's a whole load of different schools of thought about it. But certainly, if you are feeding hedgehogs in your garden, the thing that we advertise is mashed cat or dog food, as Simon said, not a fish variety. And dry biscuits, because if you just put out wet food, they can't clean their teeth in the same way that you or I can, and they end up with tooth decay and rot and all that lot. The biscuits are quite good just for making sure that they keep their teeth nice and clean. So on that one, we would say just don't keep it heavy on the mealworms if you're going to do it, or avoid it entirely.
Laurie, I'm here, Laurie. Small biscuits. Don't give them great big dog biscuits. Just give them small cat-type biscuits. Even if you crunch them up a little bit, it just gives them that bit of roughage. It cleans the teeth, cleans into the cavities, and stops them getting disease. But smaller biscuits, otherwise they'll start choking. Another thing I must say just at the moment is try not to put out too many peanuts for the birds. Birds love peanuts, absolutely fine, but then the adults will take in quite large pieces of peanuts into the babies, and it can choke the babies. So this time of year, just while they're nesting, just while they've got young, just try to lay off the peanuts a bit, unless they're really crunched up, because babies only got little mouths. They're fed every half an hour. In fact, the average small bird makes 1,000 journeys a day to feed its young. That's pretty damned amazing. But just try to give them the right sort of food, as natural a diet as you can, and peanuts, sadly, they wouldn't find those in the wild. So there we are.
Several people are asking, have we ever thought of approaching Volvo and asking them to sponsor our fleet of cars, considering you've bought nothing but Volvo since about 1402?
We should.
1402? You've just blown that out, Brayley. We've always used Volvos for the simple fact they seem to have the most boot space in the estate cars of any other vehicle. We've looked at BMWs, I tried to get Aston Martin to build me one, but they wouldn't do it. We've looked at all sorts of other vehicles. We need 4 seats in the car because we often go out and do rescues with quite a large team of people, and we need to get all the kit in the back of the car we can, and Volvos have always made the mark. We have tried so many times to go to main agents of Volvo, to go to Volvo themselves, and yet nothing, sadly. So if any major car manufacturers or agents want to sponsor our fleet of cars, I'm quite happy to change cars. I have no preference, but it's got to have a big space in the back, and it's got to have 4 seats for the people. People will say, why don't you use one of these big sort of vanny, what are they called, the SUV type things, whatever. But the trouble is, if you use something like that, often the back part where the animals go, and there's lots of space, you can't get to it from the saloon part of the car. And often when we're coming back from something and somebody's in trouble, we can just lean over the back and deal with that animal in the back of the car if we've got one with us, whereas in these cars we can't do it. If they would build something where you could take the window out so you could get into the back, then I'd be quite happy to change. But I know I shouldn't say this, and it's getting huge trouble's about to happen, Laurie. Watch for this, because I do quite like driving as fast as I can, and I like a car with a bit of acceleration. So Laurie's just
legally.
Come back, so legal. There's nothing
He's not here.
No, I'm not here. This is just a voice, a dismembered voice.
Nice. Simon, a while ago, used to be a rally driver, so a lot of that is still there. He doesn't break the law or do anything like that, but he does like that sort of adrenaline rush side of things.
Actually, I only like doing it now. I really like doing it now because I love seeing either Laurie scream, which he does quite regularly when I'm driving, or his new thing is he clutches the side of the car.
I don't. I just write him out of my will.
He clutches.
Far worse.
Laurie, you clutch the side of the car and go. And
I do.
Abby does as well. Abby does as well. They both do it. But
if you ever want to be terrified for your life, go in a car with Simon Cowell. That is where I shall leave it.
I'll tell you what, Laurie, I'll take you up in a helicopter one day.
Oh, no.
That would really scare you.
There's an interesting question here from Monique, actually. Question for Simon. In all of the years that you've been rescuing and rehabilitating wildlife, what's the biggest change you've seen in wildlife rescue practice? That's an interesting one. I'd quite like to know the answer to that.
It is quite interesting. I It's a hard one to answer in a sense. It could take hours, really. I mean, I've been rescuing the same. When I started, I didn't know what I was doing. Some people would say after 40 years, I still don't know what I'm doing. But I haven't really changed practice that much. We found, which I'm proud of in a way, that a lot of people will now pick up practices that we do. We catch animals in a certain way. We find certain things work, and it's amazing when you go onto another channel and you see, oh, they're using what we started 10 years ago, 20 years ago. There's not much change. The equipment really, there's no specialist equipment really for wildlife. We often manufacture our own equipment and adapt our own equipment because we find it works best. I mean, we get a lot of people ringing up saying, oh, how did you get that Sparrowhawk out of there? What sort of pole did you use? How did you do it? Well, it's great. We like to impart our knowledge. We want people to do. And I'm quite happy if I see somebody do something that we've never done. I'm on that very quickly trying to get the same bit of kit. But you know, we've been lucky. We've been doing it so long now that we've developed kit. We are actually trying to get a special net made for us at the moment, and then, which reminds me, I'm going to make a note in a minute on my diary because they promised to devise a special net for catching sparrowhawks. They were all excited about it when I rang them the other day because we want something where you can get a sparrowhawk in a net at 11 meters up, pull a string, and the net will actually close. They thought they might be able to do it, but they've gone ever so quiet. So Laurie might be disappointed because we do get these sparrowhawks quite often. They come in the net, but they stay in there for probably half a second, and unless you can shut the front of that net, the only way Laurie and I have developed to do it is you get one net sliding up to the other net, so both nets join together, and then we bring both nets down together, which actually is a hell of an art. Laurie and I don't even have to speak to each other now because we know what we're going to do. Whoever gets that bird first, the other net's up, sliding next to the other net quickly, and we come down in total unison, which is actually the only time Laurie and I are ever in total unison, I hasten to add.
Interestingly, it's a rather nice segue to talk about some of the rescues that we've been on over the past couple of weeks. So, as Simon said earlier, a lot of them have been tawny owls that have been blown out of the nest, either successful or unsuccessful attempts to put them back in the nest. What we tend to do with those is we'll arrive on site, we'll look around, try and find a nest if we can, take the drone up, get a nice shot, and then if we're relatively confident that that is a potential nest site, we'll then go up on the on either the line or climb or whichever way we do it. We'll just have a look in the nest, checking for things like fresh prey, feces, tawny feathers or anything like that, just so we know that it's an active nest. And at that point, that's when we start putting things back and waiting to see what happens. But that isn't the only thing that we've been on recently. And speaking of the Sparrowhawk techniques that you've been discussing, we've had a number of these little guys. So this one was caught in a very large warehouse that was full of non-alcoholic alcohol. So once we got over our bitter disappointment at that one, we managed to get in. It was Jacob, Simon and myself that were on that one. Abby was filming, and unfortunately with a lot of these you're very limited by the corridors. So the bird can fly quite happily over the top, but we have to keep running around down each corridor. And that one, as Simon said, is another example of getting it on one of the beams and getting two nets out the side, pincering it in, and then the difficulty is trying to get the net down over the beam without creating a gap large enough for the sparrowhawk to escape through. It's usually easier with the smaller nets because they're quite rigid and you've got a bit more control, but when you're right out on the sort of 15-meter poles that we've got, they can be really hard to control, and you'll do a movement and it would take a good second for that movement to be translated to the net on the other end. So there have been a few cases where a bird has slipped out on those, but I think we're reasonably in tune now of being able to get those nets down together, and luckily that's what happened on that one.
It was indeed, and yeah, I thought we were going to show some video then, but you didn't, so that was very boring, Laurie. But never mind. Have you got any videos? Have you got any videos tonight or not? Are we videoless?
We don't for this one, but there's a whole load of videos that are coming out. We don't want to spoil too much on that one, so keep an eye out for all of these on our YouTube channel and Facebook and Instagram. Actually, we're now posting the videos on all three platforms. The other one, I wasn't actually there for this. Does this picture ring a bell for you, Mr. Cal?
Yeah, I completely cocked this rescue up. I had this, it was a pigeon in an office. Not a very big office, and I had it in the net about 3 times, but they don't stay in the net very long because the nets are quite shallow. We need a deeper net, which is what these guys are trying to develop. But we did get him in the end, and in fact, I'm not sure I can even say this, Laurie, on live YouTube, but it flew into nets, flew out of nets, and in the end, Jacob grabbed it, and without thinking, I swear to God, people, without thinking, I said, "My God, that's a good hand job, Jacob." And everything went quiet, and it was not. It just came out of nowhere. I wish I hadn't said that now as well.
I'm sorry.
But never mind.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's just pretend that never happened.
You
Please
said the same
move along.
thing at the time when we were on the rescue.
Oh dear. So yeah, that was a pigeon in an office. The people, I don't know why people won't grab pigeons. They're very scared of birds. A lot of people. I mean, it would be so easy just to grab it, as Jacob did, and put it out, take it out, and it flew off quite happily. So yeah. So what else we had stuck in anywhere, Laurie? Had anything else? Any other rescues?
One recent one for you. Let's play Guess the Rescue. What are you doing here?
I have no
blank.
idea. No, I haven't. I'm not blank really. I'm just pretending.
Does it
Laurie.
help?
No, I know exactly what I was doing here, and I know what that was as well. No, that was very recent. It was, in fact, that was very recently actually. It was only a couple of days ago. We got called by a school up in Wimbledon, who had a fox cub in their photocopying room. The thing that worried us greatly was the fact that it had been there for at least 3 days, if not 5 days.
Right over the bank holiday weekend.
Right over the bank holiday weekend, without any. Well, it had water. We don't know whether it drank it or not, but obviously if it hadn't had water for 5 days, it would have been dead, I think. But all they put in was a bit of bread. But anyway, we rushed up there. It was quite dehydrated. It was quite spiky when it came in. It immediately tucked into a bowl of food. I guess you'll see the video of that quite soon.
Yes.
If Laurie ever wakes up long enough to edit it together. But no, it's a nice little chap, but he'd been stuck in there for a long time. I mean, again, we always say to anybody, you know, they said they'd rung so many places to try to get someone up to rescue this thing. Give us a call, spread the word, guys. Give Wildlife Aid a call. Even if we can't get up there immediately, we will give you advice, and our advice at that point would have been give it some water, give it some dog food, just so it can survive until we get time to get up there. We picked it up. It didn't take us very long. It was hiding behind some files, and we brought it back, and it's doing very well. It's got a slightly gunky eye, so it's in quarantine at the moment just to make sure there's nothing nasty going on, which I'm sure there's not. But this little thing has been trapped in there for probably up to 5 days. So it's lucky that it's alive. As I say, it was very dehydrated when it came in, but he's eating like a little piglet now, or a little foxlet, shall we say.
The others are rescues that have actually happened today. So today's been a very, very busy day. As you've heard from Simon getting yet another call. We've been out several times. This is one that you might not even know, Simon. Does this ring a bell for you?
No.
No.
So,
this is a pigeon that we admitted today. It was found near a police station, and unfortunately it is completely covered in paint. That is all blue paint. That is right over all of the feathers, around the head, especially around the chest and the feet. And Maru spent quite a long time with the bird under anaesthetic, sort of a long time in a reasonable sense, with the bird under anaesthetic, just trying to wipe that off. We are limited in terms of anaesthetic with birds, just for safety reasons. So that bird did come back round, and it's due for another clean tomorrow, which is probably going to be a conscious one now that the vast majority of the paint is off. Luckily, it is water soluble, and it is coming off, but it's creating one heck of a mess. It's going to take a couple of washes and a couple of days to get that little guy back to full health, I think.
I don't know whether they're talking about us here, Laurie, or not, but one comment just recently come in and said, "I love your bickering. We follow you because you do great things for wildlife, and you are very funny." I think they must be talking about you, Laurie.
No, I'm definitely not funny. I'm funny to look at, maybe.
True. No, I'll agree with that. That's absolutely fine. But no, I love the comments we get, and somebody here says, "I live vicariously through your videos." So just come and help us, guys. Volunteer. I don't care whether you're in Hampshire, New Hampshire, USA. Get over here. Come and volunteer.
Have a private plane.
Have some fun.
So yes, thank you for all of the comments about the pigeon. It's doing well at the moment. It's currently in the incubator drying off. That will be something that we'll have to take close care of and pay close attention to over the next couple of days. and we'll have to check how it goes, because even if we do get the paint off, there's a risk of aspiration, potentially toxins absorbed through the skin, so it will be a few days of monitoring even after the paint's gone before we know for sure that everything is okay.
Right.
But we will do our very best on that one. We are not species specific.
Laurie, is Lucy on the chat tonight or not? I haven't seen.
Yes, she is. Lucy is in the chat.
Because Lucy's mum's in the chat as well. Lucy's mum is on the chat. So, Lucy, say hello to your mum. Hi, Lucy's mum. I've gone blurred now, Laurie. Oh, that's better. I've gone
You've come back in.
Yeah, so we're coming to the end, guys. 55 minutes have passed of Laurie and I's insane bickering. Whether you like it or not, tell us. Be honest. Because if you don't like it, we don't really have to do it, but we quite enjoy doing it. I mean, thank you so much for the donations. It's just, our work is just flat out. I mean, everybody always says to me, what's the most important thing in your work? And I'm going to say it again, and Laurie always starts to whinge when I say it, but it's the money. The more money we get, the more we can save, the more animals we can help. So it is sadly the money. Sadly, that's what makes the world go round. It's a pity that it is, but it's the way it is. So yeah, we help, and I want to build this new centre. I'm desperate to build this new centre. I'm desperate to get IDOT working. So I've got a lot to do, and Laurie doesn't know it yet, but when I do finally go, it's all going to be down to him. Look. Yeah, no words.
That's all I'm going to say to that.
That's the first time he's gone speechless. I've never known Laurie speechless before. So there we are. What else we got? Because I can't see any of the Facebook stuff, Laurie. Is there anything much coming up on Facebook?
There's a lot of questions have come in as well. I will try and get through a couple of these. So, Elaine, I have an adult fox coming into my garden that scratches itself a lot and even drags its rear end along the grass. How can I help it, and what's wrong?
That's rather like Laurie after a few drinks, actually. It's like dogs. I mean, dogs have the same thing. They have a little gland in the back of their anus, which they need to clear. And with our domestic pets, we can take them to the vet and they do it. But the way animals do it in the wild is because they don't always eat soft things. They eat quite hard bones and things. It sort of knocks those, it cleans those glands out. And that's why a fox will be doing that often, just to clean out that gland.
The other
Laurie
quite
does it on
common thing
Mondays.
is worms as well. If an animal gets worms, it's something that you see in dogs. It's one of the main signs you see in dogs if a dog has worms. Sadly, a lot of foxes do get worms. It is a natural part of their wild existence, both lungworms and tapeworms and other various things that live inside them. And the way they get rid of those is scooting themselves across the ground like that. So that is relatively normal. Just monitor its behaviour on that side. If it looks like it's getting worse, or it's struggling, or it's getting particularly thin, then it's worth contacting your local wildlife rescue centre for advice, just to see what can be done for it. But if it's just scooting across the ground, that is relatively normal behaviour, and a lot of the time they'll be able to deal with things like that themselves. So it's worth keeping an eye out, but I wouldn't be particularly worried just yet.
Absolutely not. So lots of, I'm looking at even more comments now. Somebody living just down the road for us in Guildford, that's no excuse. If you're only in Guildford, you can come and work here quite happily. It's not that far, guys. We always need volunteers, we always need help. We always need help with all sorts of things, not only the animals, but the fundraising and all the other things we do. Douglas could do with some help on IDOT, I'm sure. Yeah, it's manic. We've got so much we want to do, but obviously we're limited not only with the time we've got, because we work 24/7 anyway, but more help would get us able to do more things. And I might one day clean my desk up, which I'm just looking at. Heavens, you can't see the side of my desk, but if I do that, you'll get a bit of a clue as to how much paper I've got to get through. Look at it.
Yeah, we went through that at one point, and there are papers in there from about 2012.
It's quite scary.
Which is even beyond the 7 years you're meant to keep.
Yeah, I know.
Any of the important documentation.
There are obviously important emails that I haven't got round to answering yet, which is quite embarrassing, really. Never mind. So, Laurie, we're nearly out of time. How are we doing?
Yes, a few people are asking, is there anything that we particularly need that they can buy for us? So, we do have an Amazon wish list for those of you who are looking at donating items or anything like that. We keep that quite regularly updated with what is in need at the centre at that any time. Thank you so much to every single person that has bought things off there recently. Huge shout out to people like Andy Horn, who are regulars on that wish list and do a sterling job getting things to us very, very quickly, and before we've even added it a lot of the time. So if you do want to help us out on Amazon, if you visit our Amazon wish list, Abby's sticking the link in the chats are both on Facebook and on YouTube, or you can go to bit.ly/waffwishlist. This is on the screen at the moment. You can see the full list of what we need on there, and if you can help us out, that would be absolutely incredible. Anna's just said, your desk gives me anxiety, Simon.
I spend my life in anxiety, so don't worry about it. I can live with it. I'm just going to put it in there. So Patreon, we still would love people to join Patreon. We do put out extra videos for you people.
We actually have just put out a little behind-the-scenes tour of our orphan unit at the moment. So if you want to see that, head over to Patreon on that one as well. And we do have a centre tour on there. I know a few people want a centre tour.
And the other thing we've got obviously is our Fun Surrey application, which we just need lots of people to link to and click on to confirm your support. I'm sure Abby or somebody or Alice will put up a link about that shortly, but we need to get that growing as much as we can.
Yes,
and
so
I think from the conversation I had with the vet team this afternoon, we will be within a matter of days putting out a fundraiser for, believe it or not, 12 new incubators, which has made me start to shake because they're very expensive. They're about 120 quid each, and I'm just being told that we need 12 of those. So I should either just say they can't have them and they've got to take them all home and put them in bed with them with their blankets on, or we will have to try and buy them. So that's going to be happening shortly. They're specially made for us because they're certain sizes and certain heats, and all things are very precise. But that will be coming out, I think, quite shortly. I don't know whether our spring appeal's gone out, Laurie. Has that gone out yet?
Not fully yet, no.
Okay, so that's going out very soon. Spring appeal, we do it every year. It's the biggest, it's the most expensive time for us, to be honest, because you know all these animals are coming in. I mean, we worked out just to take one badger cub through from arrival to release is in the region of £1,500 by the time you've done the medication and the worming treatment and all the food and all the bedding they need and everything else. It's about 1,500 quid. So it is a lot of money. I'm sorry to keep talking about money, but we love saving the animals, and I love looking at the badges on my screen, which I was doing just then as I looked across to the side. So any help you can give us would be great. Laurie, I'm going to give you the honour and privilege of signing off tonight, as we're now 3 minutes into overtime.
Yes, so just before we go, we'll just run through a couple of very quick last questions, because a few people have been waiting a little while. So if we can do these as quick fire as possible, if you can, Mr. Cal. Anna's asked, have you done rescues all your life, or did you have another job beforehand?
That's a very long answer to that question. So I spent 23 years in the city, hated it. I was a commodity broker, started Wildlife Aid back in 1980. I didn't know anything about doing it then, so I started it when I was in my mid-40s. I'm much older now. No, I was in my mid-30s, I think. Bloody hell, that was a long time ago. But no, so I've been doing it since we started Wildlife Aid in 1980. Next question.
No One Special has asked, have you ever had to rescue a reptile?
Yeah, we do rescue reptiles. I think the most memorable one was a very large lizard that had gone up somebody's fir tree. Nobody would go up to it. In those days I climbed a bit, but fir trees, Laurie will assess, are not the easiest things to climb. So this thing was about 3-4 foot long, and it was up a fir tree, and nobody had told me that they have these sort of sword jagged tails, and when you grab them to try to help them, they whack the tail around your back. I didn't let go of it, although the pain was quite immense, but we got this thing down and we got it released to someone who looks after reptiles, because we don't obviously deal with those, we only deal with wildlife of the UK. So yes, so next one.
Emily's asked, what advice do you have to keep cats away from the bird nests that are out at the moment?
I can't give the answer I want to give. I get into so much trouble. It involves dentistry, so we won't go there. I mean, all you can do, guys, is what, you know, bells, which are the most obvious thing. Just be very careful if your cat, you know, you can't follow your cat all the time. Cats are natural stalkers. All animals stalk other animals because that's how the food chain works. So you can't really blame the cats. They're doing what comes naturally to them. So about the only thing you can do is a bell. Make it loud and very difficult for them to get to anything, so everything's alerted. About the only answer, guys. Sorry.
Sunny Day Girl has just asked, do you have to wear gloves when picking up baby owls?
Yeah, I should get into trouble with this one as well, because when I'm on a rescue and I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, I often forget to put my gloves on. I should put gloves on. just because it's for the safety of me and the safety of the animal and everything else. Because you have
We have
no
seen what happens when we don't have gloves.
Yeah, the little thin gloves wouldn't have helped on the buzzard anyway. You know, if I touch an animal, it could well become infected with me, and that's not a thing it wants to be. So yeah, ideally you should wear gloves, either thick gloves or thin gloves. Obviously, if you're handling a buzzard, in future I will probably think about wearing a pair of gloves. But having said that, it's like trying to grab a badger. You cannot grab a badger in a pair of thick gauntlets. You can't scruff it. It's impossible. So I much prefer to use my hands. I can feel where the animal is. I know what I'm doing. And although it gets me into trouble sometimes, not very often, I sadly would only wear thin gloves, if anything at all, because I'm there to help the animal. That's where my concentration is.
Albert Wendy Mundy has just asked, are you going to do another TV programme?
I've no idea.
Interesting one.
I've no idea. It keeps being talked about. We find and we love doing our YouTube channel. I mean, if you look at it, it's had what, over 152 million views now, something like that. TV is all very well and good, but you know, to me, a YouTube channel where we can get up close and personal with you, we can do live chats, we can do all this sort of thing. I actually prefer that more, and you don't get so tied up in producing a sort of a bit of a shiny TV series. So who knows, there might be a series, there might not. I do not know the answer to that question. Watch this space.
So I do think, sadly, that is all we have time for today. I'm seeing a number of calls appearing on my phone, so I think we do have to go and check what's going on up at the centre at the moment. Everyone is still busy. The volunteers are still here way past 10 p.m. in the evening, and we're on call 24/7, so it is still going on. But thank you so much to every single one of you for watching, for leaving comments, for leaving questions, for donating. We say this every single week, we're not government funded at all. We can only do what we do thanks to the support of people like you. And I'm amazed that so many of you want to stick around listening to Simon and I waffle inanely for an hour every 2 weeks. But thank you so much to every single one of you who does. We really, really do appreciate it. Words can't really describe how appreciative we are that we are able to do what we do thanks to you guys. So I certainly want to leave as a last word from me would be thank you very much to you all, and I'll hand you over to Mr. Cowell for the final sign-off.
I have no more to say, guys. We are so grateful to you. I'm glad you enjoy what we do. As I say, we always want your questions and your comments or whatever. But yeah, Laurie said it all, so I'm just going to say as well, it's good night from him and it's good night from me.